I hope you guys know there's lots of phases to the rut. And what we've talked about so far is a pre-rut, the rut lockdown, but boy, the peak rut. Peak, it's the center of the rut time, but it's also center of hunting activity time. And each phase of the rut needs to be hunted a little bit differently. And it's important for you to understand what phase you're in and why, so you know how to hunt. I want to talk about peak rut right here, peak of daylight movement. This is a little bit different too. You can get really confused if you look at some of the states and how they tabulate when the rut is coming in, winter does are coming into estrus, because you'll go out and you'll find in a state will say, well, you know, peak rut is the 12th or 14th of November, and you don't realize that they tabulate maybe in their second rut with their primary rut. They all look at it as one rut, and so that actually takes 20% of your does, combines them with the first 80% of the does that are coming in, or 70%, where those numbers are, and it makes it look like the rut begins later, because you're taking this group back here, you're not separating those. And she'll look at it like, boy, it's saying the 13th of November, 14th, and I haven't seen any rutting activity. Now, part of that is pressure. A lot of guys are hitting the woods, a lot of hunters are going out, they're taking the rutcations, and they're pounding the woods hard. A lot of times, especially the last 3 or 4 days of their rutcation, they're really pulling a Hail Mary and trying to hit it hard and spooking out the deer herd. Well, those big bucks turn nocturnal. They can do that by weather. Hot weather, windy weather, stormy weather, that'll push rutting behavior towards at night and after dark. They might move the exact same amount of time in a 24-hour period. They're just moving more under the cover of darkness, and they'll certainly do that with more pressure too, or they'll leave your area altogether. So you need to look at, this is the peak of daylight movement time. And we'll talk about, I can give you some generalities. Tennessee, for example, that might be more the 15th of November. Kentucky similar, Kansas similar. More in the first week of November, 10 days in November. By the time you get to the 10th, 11th, 12th, up here in southeast Minnesota, southwest Wisconsin, southern Michigan, it's really dwindling. And you can look and say, well, peak breeding date is, no, look at peak activity. If you're going out for an all-day rut hunt on the 13th of November around here, it might be a really long set, unless something special and unique's going on. Folks, it's time for the rut, and that means you need to check out my rut web class. It'll help you navigate the entire rut. But more importantly, QuietKat is one of our important partners, and through that partnership, they've offered to clients, people that contact us, an incredible discount and opportunity to buy a new QuietKat. Look for an email that you can contact and the contact information in the description, but I really want to pass that off to you. We don't do that very often, but I want to make sure you guys don't miss out if you're looking and in the market for a new QuietKat. 7th, 8th, 10th, right around there, just incredible time. 4th, 5th, 3rd. I mean, we had great activity. I shot my buck on October 30th in Wisconsin, and that can be an incredible time on October 28th here in Minnesota. Really good time. Dylan, 31st. 2nd. No, wait. November 2nd was yours?
Yep.
Yeah. So October 30th, 31st, there's a huge activity in Wisconsin. Halloween, right around in that time of activity. Dylan shot his on the 2nd. I shot mine on the 30th and the 28th, 31st, right around 27th, something like that. But bottom line is, that's when you start getting that pre-rut activity, get a little bit of rut lockdown, and then it really explodes. That's the time we're talking about right now, and that's the time you can shoot deer any time of the day. And what's interesting about that is AM, middle of the day, PM. I want to see you score the day. And what I mean by that is if you're sitting in a bedding area stand all day, that's a morning stand. That's a really good stand. But if you're sitting in it all day, those deer are going towards food sources in the afternoon. So you're not getting a very good score in the middle of the day or the afternoon. At the same time, if you're sitting in a transition area, which is a great midday stand, then what about the morning? What about in the afternoon? At the same time, you're sitting in food all day. Might be great in the afternoon, but terrible in the morning. In fact, you might go into it in the morning and spook deer out. So look at it. Am I in a really good morning stand? And I'm not saying to sit in 3 stands. Usually you can sit, maybe you're sitting closer to food, but it's a really thick funnel. There's really good brush, cover, bushes, grasses, briars. It's an area where you could say, man, a buck could be here during daylight all day. And so, but it's closer to food. And so you're catching deer that are actually coming through, you're catching that movement as they're going to food sources. So it represents a great midday stand. You might go into it 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock. and sit there all the way until dark, because you'll get deer that are moving through that area and transitioning through that area to food. Maybe you sit in a morning area like that, where it's a great bedding area, morning cover, but it's a little bit further away from food. Really good thick cover. You can imagine a buck being there at noon, but at some point at noon, 1 or 2, you get out of there. Great midday spot, and then you're just transferring over to a different stand that relates to food in that movement. And then you look at it, score each set, look at it as a 10 out of 10. If it's a great bedding area stand, everything's perfect, good wind, 10 out of 10. But sometime during the day, you're going to get a really bad score, whether it's midday because you're too far away from food, it's too far at the end of the bedding area window, meaning deer might come all the way back to bed at you, but if you don't see them by 10, 11 o'clock, they're just not there. So you need to go move into that transition area on the way to food, and that'll give you a better score for midday and afternoon. So think about it. Is this a good morning stand? Is this a good midday? Score it. Yeah, I think this is a 10 out of 10, because a lot of people are sitting in really bad dud 0 out of 10 or 1 out of 10 or 2 out of 10 mornings or afternoons when they should be sitting in another stand, and you're really wasting a lot of time during a very valuable time of the season. You don't want to waste opportunity. Sure, you're out in the woods, it's pretty out, but always think about it. Am I getting the best score for my day? Because again, they can move at any time of the day, and that's really important. And finally, I'm going to leave you with this. You still have to be smart. It's amazing how many people really hunt very hard and very smart in October when the season opens. They look at it correctly. They say, well, the season's a marathon, not a sprint, and I'm going to play it very safe. But then when it gets to the rut, they just throw all caution to the wind. They sit in stands with your scent blowing into bedding areas, and this is not the time for that. Again, score the day, make sure you're making smart decisions, and it'll really pay off in the end for you. Meaning you might have a great stand you can't wait to sit in, but the wind's a little bit bad. Sit in another one. You have a great stand you can't wait to sit in, but it's really bad weather, and there's good weather tomorrow or the next day. Just wait, sit somewhere else. Go to another property. Always look at it that the peak rut is a valuable time to be in the woods, and yes, anything can happen at any time, but you still have to play it smart. You still have to score the day, and understand that your peak rut and your peak rut of daylight movement might be different than someone else's in another state. And at the same time, always think that, man, is this, when I'm actually seeing a lot of deer in the woods at this time, we can say that, I talked about Kansas, might be more mid-September or mid-November. I've looked at Ohio. I've go around here, and then I go to southeast Ohio to hunt on public land. I've gone down there and shot a really nice buck on Monday before Thanksgiving, at a time where the woods was dead up here. And when it gets dead, think about these bucks. People think the rut lasts for a month or two. It doesn't. Think about those deer. They're creatures just like a lot of other animals out in the woods. They can't run and lose body fat for 5 weeks at a time. Just keep running. People even say, well, midday is the best time to be in the woods. Well, sometimes it is. But if they're running all morning and they just ran all night, at some point they're laying up. They can't just keep running 24/7. They do not do that. They still need to rest. They still need to relax. And a lot of times that's the middle of the day. Even during the peak rut, they take little naps here and there. But at some point it stops. When it does, it stops hard. And that's when you start getting into the post-rut period. You really focus on food source then. But now is the time to focus on AM bedding, midday transition areas, and of course those afternoon food sources. Make smart decisions, and you'll get the most out of your peak rut this season and beyond. I appreciate you guys watching the YouTube channel, but I don't know if everyone knows everything that we have to offer, whether it's on whitetailhabitatsolutions.com, our website, our WHS Wildlife Blends, our seed company. Also Instagram you can check out. I'm very active on Instagram, putting strategies on there, photos of what we do every day. Much more active there than Facebook. But our seed, web classes, books, clients, articles. I have over 600 articles on whitetailhabitatsolutions.com, everything whitetail strategy. Of course, we have hats on there, and then make sure to check us out on Instagram again. But lots of stuff to offer. We're always coming out with new things, and this isn't the end of it. We have more things coming soon. Make sure to check us out.